honored to be part of the sharing of memories of my friend and colleague, J.C. Mutchler. J.C. and I intersected often on our serendipitous parallel roads that took us both to New Haven at Yale Graduate School and later on here to Arizona. It seems appropriate to talk about memories, and particularly to talk about memories, because J.C. loved to talk, and I loved talking with J.C. He was always willing to listen. He was always willing to share ideas. I am filled with memories of J.C., particularly not just J.C. talking, but J.C. in action. I'm standing here in my backyard, in part because here's one of my favorite memories of J.C. is of manning the barbecue during our annual monsoon barbecues here in Tucson.
I first met J.C. Mutchler in the late 2000s when he was Secretary of the Faculty and member of the Faculty Senate Executive Committee. I got to know him well and worked closely with him when I became University of Arizona's provost in 2012. J.C. had just completed a term as chair of the Arizona Faculty's Council. That's an elected role in which he represented the faculty of all three public universities at meetings of the Arizona Board of Regents. Like many people who knew J.C., I found him to be a warm, thoughtful, and friendly person. He was authentic to his roots in land and place, as well as to his scholarship and intellect.
I feel very lucky to have worked with J.C. in the Southwest Center for his all too brief time here. J.C. was an incredibly generous person, thoughtful. He just had such an amazing ability to engage with people from all over the place and to interpret landscapes and to be a part of them and to understand his place in them and to share that with others and write about it, and all of that experience, I think, was reflected in his scholarship, but also in his very community-minded orientation. And he brought that to the Southwest Center as well. And those are things that I really very much appreciate and learn from J.C. Mutchler.
Very early on, in the early 2000s, I was working first with Elder Hostel and then teaching for Cochise College. And I'd gotten to know J.C. through a number of programs there, and I brought him out here. And the day that I brought him here, he said, you know what, we need to quit our jobs, move out here and save this place. And we, kind of backed off from that a little bit, but that started his work here. And part of that was getting his students involved in the process, which has collected the history that has led in many ways to us being able to save this amazing place.
I was a student of J.C. Mutchler's at the University of Arizona South. I believe I sat in his very first class that he taught at the institution. J.C. was one of the most influential people in my career path. He was supportive, encouraging, and I'll be forever grateful for the influence that he had in my life.
I met J.C., I think, at the Western History Association annual meeting well more than a decade ago, and what I was really struck by was here was this big kind of Western looking guy with boots, which in and of itself is not so unusual at the Western History meeting, but two of my friends who have fairly fancy jobs and went to graduate school at Yale sort of descended on JC and embraced him in hugs and catching up, and I thought, who is this guy? And I myself kind of had a foot in both worlds of rural Arizona history and sort of East Coast academia. And I realized that JC was somebody who had bridged that wide gap in such a fascinating way.
Like Annie, I was a student of his. My first history class at University of Arizona South was with Dr. Mutchler. And I always remember the hat. As soon as you walk in, you don't know what to expect. But he was a mentor and a guide. And he encouraged you and he guided you to expand your knowledge. He shared his knowledge and passion of the borderlands. and you quickly learn so much, and you wanted to learn that much more. So I took every class possible that I could with him in pursuit of my history degree.
JC had a double life. He had a life here in Cochise County and was an advocate for Camp Naco, which is where I met him first around 2006, when he, like Becky, were just champions trying to organize people who could bring some expertise to, in my case, the preservation of the buildings and provide some documentation and advice on what they should do first. And then the other life was really at the University of Arizona campus in Tucson, where, as was described earlier, here's this guy in cowboy boots, jeans, and a big cowboy hat walking through campus as the special assistant to President Hart. And so here was this contrast of an East Coast oriented president of the university, along with this clearly base-placed gentleman who was able to really kind of bring some gravitas to the kinds of strategic direction for the University of Arizona as a land-grant college. And he excelled in both of those areas. And I'm grateful for his friendship, and the reason I'm here also is because of him.
I have wonderful memories of his marriage to the beautiful Alyssa in the historic Tumacacori Church, of him showing off his goats in Vail and later on in Hereford, about him striding through the halls, administrative halls in the main campus in his signature hat and cowboy boots.
JC's faculty leadership successes ultimately led to him being appointed in 2013 as executive director of the president's office, essentially a chief of staff role. Beyond the usual skills, that position required something that many might have guessed would push JC out of his comfort zone. And that was the need to wear a suit all the time. Perhaps surprisingly, he sort of owned the suit idea. And I think he even had some suits made to order. He seemed to relish that transformation from cowboy and goat keeper to a dapper executive.
About 10 years ago, I went out to his ranch and to see the goat cheese operation with what was then my young son and my husband. And, you know, I had the son growing up in Washington, D.C. who went to this goat dairy and farm and house where the goats went in and out of the house. And it was an unbelievably special experience for my family and kind of captured what was unique about JC as an intellectual and as a person.
One of my favorite stories of spending time with JC is when I first came to Naco, and I had never been to Naco before, and we toured Camp Naco, and we were looking at it as a project, right? So we were looking at it, you know, how can I bring students here to use it as a spring break kind of field school? He said, well, I need to take you to the Gay 90s bar, which is the bar that sits in Naco, and it's the only real sort of business in Naco. And so it's like, okay. And those of you who don't know, JC doesn't drink. And so he was there really not to go and have a drink, but it was there as the laboratory to watch people. And he said, you need to come to the place where the stories are being told in the community. And it was at the Gay 90s.
Yeah, I guess one of the things I really remember is going down to visit JC on his ranch, on his goat ranch that was right on the border near Naco, and well, between Sierra Vista and Naco, La Chivarrisa. And even in his, even with his compromised health, we were walking along the border, and he had a big oxygen pack or an oxygen machine on him, strapped to his back, but there we were, walking along the border, and he was talking about life, living right on the wall, on the fence, the border line, and I just could really appreciate how much JC was so present in the world, so a part of his surroundings and engaging with what was happening around him, and bringing that to his scholarship as well.
Well, I think he believed in community history, the idea that the history of the place then transcends and imprints on you the sense of identity. And to build pride in identity of a place and of the people, you need to know its history in order to continue that legacy. And that's what JC advocated for in his teaching as well as his work.
And I think when I hear you all talk about JC, what I hear is empathy, historical empathy for historical actors. And I think JC took it further with empathy for the community. And that's very moving.
He was genuinely interested in people and in finding real solutions to the many challenges in running a world-class university. I will say that JC's skills in helping groups find consensus by gently nudging conversation this way and that were an absolute masterclass, demonstrating how the very best leaders lead by doing things with rather than to the people that they lead.
And it's, again, he ignited that passion. And that was around 2004, 2005. And I'm still here today researching, never giving up, looking for those answers. That we started with some brief oral histories. And again, he just guided you along the way and just helped you, stay on that path to learn the answers for history, for all those avenues of history, and just never giving up. So again, I am here today because of him.
And I think he took his role as a mentor very seriously, right? And so, part of his identity as a professor was also not just to profess knowledge, but to, again, impart the passion and the tools by which the next generation can then tell the story, and that builds a whole community that, again, builds pride in that community.
I'll remember JC for being a considerate, approachable, can-do kind of person who also never gave up his guy next door charm and always put his highest ideals first.
And just a very kind and generous-hearted person, and I deeply miss him. I really regret not having had the chance to work more closely with JC Mutchler in the Southwest Center at the University of Arizona.
He, would be in contact every now and then to talk about opportunities, see if I'd be interested in, doing projects, and so he didn't just drop his students after a class or after even they left the university. He really cemented lasting relationships with us.
But that is a regret that he is not here to see so much of what we've been doing, and he is greatly missed.
He's one of those people that you always had at your back, that he would be there as a supporter for the project.
And so in some ways he is here with us.
I echo the love and admiration that comes through these memories and these memoirs. I miss JC. Yeah, I miss his barbecue ribs. But what I continue to miss, but also continue to be inspired by, is his integrity, is his spirit, his joy in life, and his commitment to integrity. So, thank you.